Warning. This podcast may prove to be damaging to the comfort of closely held presuppositions. Remember to practice Acts 17:11 and examine the scriptures daily to see whether these things are so.
The world is changing rapidly. Wars and rumors of wars are abundant. Civil unrest, economic collapse, a global economic reset, natural disasters, and the second coming of Jesus Christ is on the horizon. Are you prepared? Welcome to Truth Fed.
Greetings, Truth Seekers, and welcome back to Truth Fed. I'm Shawn, and the website is www.truthfed.com. And thank you for taking the time to join me this morning. Today we're going to resume our conversation about the kingdom of heaven, the coming kingdom. And as promised, I'm going to talk a little bit about this strange term that Jesus uses known as outer darkness. And so I've got several bullet points of things I want to cover today, and as long as time allows, we'll try to get to all of them. And we're going to be digging right into these parables right off the bat. Real quick before we start, just a reminder, truthfed.com, I have spent a lot of time and money getting the forums up and running, so I would love it if you would go check that out, if you'd register and just start posting. And there's a place to talk about the rapture, a place to talk about end times, there's a prayer request part, there's questions and suggestions. There's all kinds of areas. Not only that, there's a Truth Fed social wall now where you can go and I post updates to that wall. You can join the group and post updates to the wall yourself as well. We're trying to move away from these evil entities known as, like Facebook as an example. I'm going to be just leaving Facebook soon, and I know that that's saddening to some of you, but I just don't want to be part of it anymore. It's one of the most evil entities in existence. I'm just sick of the stuff I see on there, and so I'm just going to be moving away from it, and I believe that the people who really, really care about this work will take the time to come to truthfed.com to get the information. Eventually, I want to move away from YouTube. That's a longer down the road type of situation. And the reason is, aside from the fact that these companies are evil within themselves, they're starting to filter Christian information. Facebook is, there's 700 people on Facebook, but my post will only be shown to like 10 sometimes, you know what I mean? So, they're really limiting it anyway. YouTube does the same thing. And so we've got to find all alternatives. And so I'm trying to get people used to just visiting truthfed.com every day, to see the updates, to check out the forums, to interact with one another. I want it to be a community where you guys can come and share with each other. And so we'll see how that goes. Anyway, let's jump into our topic about this outer darkness. So Jesus uses this term, outer darkness, weeping and gnashing of teeth, and he uses it in a couple of parables that are dealing with the kingdom of heaven and the coming kingdom. And I'm going to tell you right off the top what I think outer darkness is. I think there's two real good possibilities. I don't think it's hell. Okay, I don't think he's talking about the lake of fire. I don't think he's talking about Sheol or Hades, although it is possible, so we can't rule that out. But I don't think that that's what he's talking about. I think it's either he's talking about the outskirts of the kingdom, meaning an area where people aren't technically in the kingdom. They had no inheritance, but are still saved by grace. I also am really leaning towards that it's talking about the tribulation, and it could be a combination of both. Now, the word that's used for the outer darkness, the word for outer in the Greek, I don't have the Hebrew version yet, but the Greek rendition is exteros, which simply does mean just outer or exterior. It literally means the exterior, the outer area is what it means. So I think that that's what he's talking about. And it's used in Matthew 8:12, Matthew 22:13, and Matthew 25:30. The exact same term is used. They'll be cast in the outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And even the weeping means weeping, and the gnashing of teeth doesn't mean like torment. It means basically, when it's talking about their weeping and gnashing of teeth, it's exactly what you think. They're saddened by what's happened, but it doesn't mean like tortured, like being tortured like you would be if you were cast into the lake of fire. So let's just visit some of these areas where this is used. Now, Matthew 24:45 through 51. He's talking about these servants, and he says, "Who then is a faithful and wise servant, whom his Lord hath made ruler over his household, to give them meat in due season? Blessed is that servant." Listen to this stuff. This is very important that you absorb this and understand this. People try to say, well, nothing, works don't mean anything. And that's true when we're talking about salvation, but it's not true when we're talking about inheritance in the kingdom. Verse 46, and this isn't me speaking, this is Jesus himself. "Blessed is that servant, whom his Lord when he cometh shall find him so doing," talking about doing his work. "Verily I say unto you, that he shall make him ruler over all his goods." Again, we're talking about the kingdom of heaven. "But if that evil servant shall say in his heart, My Lord delayeth his coming." How many people are saying that today? He's not coming. People have been saying that this is the argument I hear from people all the time. Every generation's thought it's the last days, blah, 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 blah. They're basically saying this: my Lord has delayed his coming. "And he shall begin to smite his fellow servants, and to eat and drink with the drunken." In other words, he says, it doesn't look like Jesus is going to come back soon after all. I'm going to go back to some of my sinful habits. "The Lord of that servant shall come in a day when he looketh not for him, and in an hour that he is not aware of." So people with this mentality are going to be caught off guard. How many of them do you know? How many of them do you know? They say, people have been saying that for years. They continue to walk in their sin, whatever it be. "The Lord of that servant shall come in a day when he looketh not for him, in an hour that he is not aware of, and shall cut him asunder, and appoint him his portion with the hypocrites. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth." So these people, and this isn't talking about outer darkness, but it does use the weeping and gnashing of teeth. Now this cut him asunder. A lot of translations will say cut him to pieces, but the Greek actually doesn't say anything about cutting to pieces at all. And I saw a commentary on this the other day where they were just showing the Greek and saying that when it's saying shall cut him asunder, it just means to cut him off. Kind of like you would cut them off from the others. Okay? He's going to appoint him his portion of what? His inheritance with the hypocrites, where there'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So there's the first clue that I'm getting at, that I'm thinking, okay. All right, so we're either talking about the tribulation or we're talking about the outskirts. I'm thinking that it's the tribulation because the context is hey, those servants who say, he's delaying his coming, he's not coming, they begin to smite their fellow servants. They begin to eat and drink with the drunken. The Lord's coming in a day and an hour that they're not aware of, and their portion, they'll be cut off. And they'll be appointed with those who are hypocrites. So see, I think that's talking about the tribulation. And of course, there's going to be weeping and gnashing of teeth during that time period, right? Especially for those who realize what's happened. Let's move on. Chapter 22. Matthew 22. "And Jesus answered and spake to them again by parables, and said, The kingdom of heaven..." So what are we talking about here? Context, friends. Because text without context is a pretext to make it mean whatever you want. We always got to be reading in context. The context is the kingdom of heaven is going to be like this short story I'm about to tell you, is what Jesus is saying. So verse 2, "The kingdom of heaven is like unto a certain king, which made a marriage for his son, We've been over this parable before. It's about God. It's a wedding banquet. Jesus is obviously the son who's getting married. And he sent forth his servants to call them who were bidden to the wedding, but they would not come. And again he sent forth servants, saying, Tell them which are bidden, Behold, I've prepared my dinner. My oxen and my fatlings are killed, and all things are ready. Come into the marriage. But they made light of it. We see this every day, right? Hey, Jesus is coming back soon. Have you seen the things going on? And have you seen what's happening in Israel? And look at the signs in the heavens. And man, Jesus is going to be here any minute. You say that to people, but what do? They make light of it. And they went their own ways. One to his farm, another to his merchandise. In other words, they had things to do. They were too busy to take the time to worry about whether or not Jesus was coming back today. And the remnant took his servants and entreated them spitefully and slew them. But when the king heard thereof, he was wroth. And he sent forth his armies and destroyed those murderers and burned up their cities. See, again, right there it is. I think we're talking about the tribulation right there. He said, hey, come into the marriage supper. They said, no, we're making light of this. We don't even believe that you're coming anytime soon. I just got married. I just bought a farm. I've got things to do. And then guess what? They were destroyed and burned up in their own cities. Then saith his servants, The wedding is ready, but they which were bidden were not worthy. Remember what Jesus says to pray in Luke? Pray without ceasing that you may be counted worthy. When Jesus is telling them about the end days, right? Pray that you be counted worthy to escape all of these things and to stand before the Son of Man. Now look at this parable in verse 8. The wedding was ready, but they which were bidden, those who were invited, they were not worthy. You see, those who are taking light of this stuff, making light of it, not paying attention, they're not going to be counted worthy to escape. Go ye therefore into the highways, and as many as you find, bid them to the marriage. So the servants went into the highways and gathered together all as many as they found, both bad and good. And the wedding was furnished with guests. And the king came to see the guests, and he saw there a man which had not on a wedding garment. So this is a person, and I've always pondered, what is this talking about? This is a person who doesn't have on a wedding garment. This is a person, and I don't know exactly what the situation is. But let's read on further. So the king sees somebody there. He doesn't have on a wedding garment. And he saith unto him, Friend. I think it's interesting that he calls him a friend, right? He's not an enemy. How comest thou in hither, not having a wedding garment? And he, the guest, was speechless. So he's a friend, but he's not supposed to be there. He doesn't have a wedding garment on. And of course, he's speechless. I don't know. Then the king said to the servants, Bind him hand and foot, and take him away, and cast him into outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth, for many are called, but few are chosen. Again, I think we're talking about the tribulation based on the context. We have a situation, the marriage supper's ready, people don't want to go, therefore they're going to be stuck in their cities where their cities are burning. If a man shows up there and he says, hey, you don't have a wedding garment, outer darkness, where there's going to be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are called, but few are chosen. Man, that parable is just so powerful. There's just so much in that we could relate to these days and the things going on around us. Let's move on to the next parable here. Matthew 25:14-46. And I'm sorry if I'm reading through these quickly. I'm just trying for the sake of time. I hope that I'm getting my point across about what I think this outer darkness is and why people are going there, even though they're believers. Matthew 25:14-46. We have another parable. For the kingdom of heaven, again, what's the context? Jesus is talking about things. He's telling a short story to help you understand how the kingdom of heaven is going to work. For the kingdom of heaven is like a man traveling into a far country, who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. And unto one he gave 5 talents. You've heard the story of the talents, right? To another 2, and another 1, to every man according to his several ability. And straightway took his journey. Okay, So the master has left to a faraway country, and he's left his servants in charge. He's given them talents based on their abilities. Okay? Some people have 5, some people have 2, some people have 1. Moving on, verse 16. Then he that received the 5 talents went and traded with the same and made another 5 talents. In other words, he grew his talents for the master. And likewise, he that received 2, he also gained another 2. But he that received 1 went and digged in the earth and hid his Lord's money. In other words, he did nothing with the talent that he was given. After a long time, the Lord of the servants cometh and reckon with them. Okay, so here he is. He shows up. And he said to the one that received 5 talents, Come, and brought another 5 talents, saying, Lord, thou gave me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained besides them 5 more. And his Lord said unto him, Well done. This is what I dream of hearing from Christ. This is my ultimate goal. His Lord hath said unto him, Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Remember, we're talking about the kingdom of heaven. And he says, Enter into thou joy of thy Lord. So, Jesus says, hey, you were good and faithful. And because you were faithful with a little bit while you were here, I'm going to make you ruler over many things over here. Do you see what we're talking about here? Do you understand what I'm talking about when I say that you can't earn your salvation, but your works certainly do determine a lot to do with your inheritance? I mean, this is Jesus himself saying this. He also that received 2 talents came in, said, Lord, you gave me 2. Behold, I have gained 2 other talents. His Lord said unto him, Well done, good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful with a few things. I will make thee ruler over many. Enter thou into the joy of the Lord. Moving on to verse 24. Then he which had received the 1 came and said, Lord, I knew that thou were a hard man, reaping where thou hast not sown, and gathering where thou hast not strawed. So first of all, this guy doesn't even have the right understanding of who his master is. And I was afraid. Remember, cowards, what's the book of Revelation say? Cowards will not inherit. And he went and hid thy money, thy talent in the earth. Lo, there how, here's that is thine. So in other words, I didn't do anything because I think you're a harsh man, and I was afraid. So I hid it, and I did nothing with your talent. Here, you can have it back. Verse 26, his Lord answered and said to him, Thou wicked and slothful, in other words, lazy servant. Thou knewest that I reap where I sowed not, and gathered where I have not strawed. Thou oughtest therefore have put my money to the exchangers, in other words, the depositors, the bankers. And then at my coming I should have received my own with usury, in other words, interest. Take therefore the talent from him. In other words, take that talent and give it unto him which has 10. So what we have here is a picture of a servant who did nothing. So his inheritance is taken from him and given to the one who did the most. For unto everyone who hath shall be given, and he shall have abundance. But from him who hath not shall be taken away, which he hath not hath. And cast ye the unprofitable servant into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth, when the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and the holy angels with him. Then he shall sit upon the throne of glory. And then he goes on to talk about gathering the sheep and dividing the sheep from the goats, and so forth and so on. But here we have again outer darkness. So this person is a servant, right? But they did nothing. Now we know we can't earn our salvation, so this isn't a matter of salvation. This is a matter of inheritance. And what little bit of inheritance he was going to have has been given to the one who did the most. And the unprofitable servant is cast into outer darkness. Again, we could be talking about the tribulation. We could be talking about the outskirts of the kingdom where there'll be no inheritance. Or we could be talking about both. But both are related to how you act, what you do with what God has given you, with the talents he has given you. Matthew 8:11 through 13. Just 3 verses I want to read here. And I say unto you that many shall come from the east and west, and shall sit down with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. So again, we're talking about the kingdom of heaven again. But the children of the kingdom shall be cast into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Again, I think he's talking about those who were invited, remember the marriage supper, but they didn't want to go. So they're cast into outer darkness where there'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth. How many people today are taking this stuff so lightly? How many Christians are going to be finding themselves without any inheritance, are going to find themselves trapped in the tribulation? They never prayed, find me worthy to escape, much less prayed it daily. I'm always amazed by those who mock those of us who believe in the catching away, even though there's endless information about it. If you study it and you understand the marriage, the Jewish wedding customs and all of that, and you study what the book of Isaiah says and many of the other prophets say, go into thy chambers until the wrath has ended. You've got these parables about the wedding banquet. The master comes, takes those who are ready. I mean, you guys know the parable of the 10 wise and foolish virgins. The 5 of them are wise. They go into the marriage supper. The other 5 are stuck outside, banging on the door. Adonai, let us in. And, you've even got, he tells one of the churches of Philadelphia, because you've remained faithful and kept my patience, I will spare you the hour of temptation, or some translations say the hour of trial, that is coming to test the entire world. So some of the church is being spared. But then he tells the church who's suffering with, or who's dabbling in sexual immorality, that he's going to cast her into a sick bed and into great tribulation. The church of Thyatira says, I have notwithstanding, I have a few things against thee, because thou suffer that woman Jezebel. Which I'm sure when he was talking to the actual church, there was a woman named Jezebel, but we all know Jezebel is a symbolic for a spirit of sexual immorality. She calls herself a prophetess to teach and seduce my servants to commit what? Fornication, sex outside of marriage, and to eat things sacrificed unto idols. And I gave her space to repent of her fornication, and she has not repented. Behold, I will cast her into a bed, and them that commit adultery with her into great tribulation, except they repent of their deeds. He's saying those who are doing this sexually immoral stuff, they're going into the great tribulation. I'm casting them into great tribulation unless they repent. And I will kill her children with death, and all the churches shall know that I am he which searcheth and reign in the hearts, and I will give unto everyone according to what? Your works. Whew. Man, people don't want to hear that message, do they? People do not want to hear that message. Anyway, that's my thoughts on the outer darkness. And, we could study that forever and ever. I worry about losing my inheritance. Paul says in 1 Corinthians 9:27, but I keep under my body and bring it into subjection, lest by any means, when I have preached to others, I myself should be a castaway. Look at that. Castaway. And what's happening to these people? They're being cast into outer darkness. Paul wasn't worried about his salvation. I mean, he wrote an entire book about, the blessed assurance of salvation through Christ. He wasn't worried about that. I mean, he's a main preacher of eternal security. So what's he talking about? He's saying, I'm worried. I need to bring my body and my flesh into subjection, because I've preached to others. I don't want to be a hypocrite. And I myself should be a castaway. I think he's referring to that very thing. He doesn't want to be cast into outer darkness. Whew, man. I feel that so much, because there's so many things that I struggle with, And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but the spiritual attacks are just on the rise. I mean, I've got arrows coming in my own household, temptations ramped up. I mean, all kinds of things that I'm fighting against. And I think it's because we're right there at the edge. I mean, it's I believe Jesus could come back any minute. Any minute. And I know there's a lot of people who say, well, there's only one second coming. There's no this and that. First of all, the word second coming is not even in the Bible. So why don't you go do a word study on that? It's not there. Number 2, there's several appearances of Christ in the book of Revelation. And I'm not going to read them all to you, but you go to, let's see if I can remember the verses. You go to chapter 6, talking about the sixth seal. What happens? People say, they cry for the mountains to hide them from what? The face of the Lamb. They say, hide us from the face of the Lamb because his wrath has come, right? They want to be hidden. That's before any trumpets have gone off. Then you get to chapter 14, and what's he doing? He's standing on the mountain with 144,000. Then you get to, I believe it's 19, and here he comes with the saints. So there's 3 different occasions where Jesus is seen, and just in the book of Revelation. So there's 3 appearings right there. We need to stop trying to think that we own all this theology and we've got it all figured out because we listen to our favorite Bible commentary. Come on, guys. Just read the book. Like Chuck Missler says, the more literally you take it, the closer you are to the truth. There is multiple appearings. And of course, there's a final climatic appearing where he sets up his kingdom. That's not my opinion. That's what the book says. And people will try to make those all the same, but there's different events happening in each one of them. I could go on about that forever. This is not a rapture talk, but let's talk about the days of Noah and Lot real quick. I've got a couple of minutes left. Because that's where we're at today. And so many people are, like that parable says, taking this stuff lightly. Taking it lightly. If you go to Matthew 24, verse 36, but of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. For in the days that were before the flood, what's he talking about? Before the flood. For as in the days before the tribulation happened, right? That's what he's likening it to. They were eating and drinking and marrying and giving in marriage until the day that Noah entered the ark. So what's the picture here? Just like in the days of Noah, these last days people will be, doing their normal life. They'll be eating and drinking. They're not going to suspect anything's coming. Then Noah goes into the ark, the place of safety, representing the true remnant church, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. 2 will be in a field, 1 will be taken, the other left. 2 will be grinding at the mill, 1 will be taken, the other left. Watch therefore. Why? Why do I need to watch? Well, he says, for you know not what hour your Lord cometh. But know this, that if a good man of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched, and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. Therefore be ye also ready, for in such an hour as you think not, the Son of Man cometh. Well, I think it's going to be on the Feast of Trumpets. Well, it might be, but he says, in an hour you think not, the Son of Man cometh. If the good man of the house had known, he would have watched. Do you believe that we're in that time and that we need to be watching and that we need to be ready? Luke goes on and expands on it even more. Because Jesus isn't only talking about the times of Noah, he's also talking about the times of Lot. If you look at Luke 17, 26 through 30, as in the days of Noah, so shall it also be in the days of the Son of Man. They did eat, they drank, they married wives, they were given in marriage until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and the flood came and destroyed them all. Likewise, also, it was like it was in the days of Lot. Now, I don't know if you guys have walked around your local mall recently, or turned on the news recently, or just stepped outside recently, or if you've noticed anything strange about the month of June this year in 2016, but wouldn't you say that it's like the times of Lot? I think that's pretty obvious. Likewise, it was also like the days of Lot. They were eating and drinking, right? They bought and they sold, right? In other words, the economy was still there. They were buying and selling. They were planting. They were building. Things were pretty normal. But the same day that Lot went out of Sodom, again, another picture, the righteous removed. Lot leaves Sodom. The very day that Lot left Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. Even thus shall it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. Folks, we are so there. We are so there. And I know that the spiritual attacks are ramping up. Like I said, I'm experiencing myself. I just ask that you would pray for me. I might even go to the forums here on TruthFed and just post a quick, please pray for me in the prayer section. But you need to hold fast that no one takes your crown. That's what it's talking about. Hold fast that no one takes your crown, because in these last moments, it's going to get hairy. Expect a rise in temptation, expect a rise in strife in your families, etc. But remember, we are not at war with flesh and blood. This thing's about to climax. I'm telling you, it's all about to blow up. Make sure you're praying, count me worthy to escape. People who mock us, those of us who believe in a rapture, they mock us, and one of their mockings is, they just want to escape. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I do want to escape the tribulation. Oh, and by the way, Jesus told me that I should pray without ceasing, that I'd be counted worthy to escape those things. Not some of them, by the way. He says that you might be counted worthy to escape all of them. So yeah, I do believe that. They'll also make comments like, and then when who's all these saints in the book of Revelation? And they say that, this is what they say, what we believe. Well, they believe that those are all people who get saved during the tribulation. Well, that's not what I believe. I believe that a majority of Christians are going to be going into the tribulation. I believe just a small portion will be counted worthy to escape, just like we see in the picture of the 7 churches. It's those who are waiting and watching, right? Those who delight in his appearing. Those who are taking it lightly aren't going. They're going into outer darkness, where there'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth. That's what I believe. So I believe a lot of these Christians, or actually the word Christian's not used in the book of Revelation, but all these saints that you see that Satan is overcoming are those who took it lightly. And now there's weeping and gnashing of teeth. That's all I have for you today, guys. I'm sorry, I've run out of time. Hopefully, it may be late evening, afternoon before I get the YouTube version of it up. And I apologize for that. I hope that this blessed you. Please come to the forums and the comments and stuff on the website itself. truthfed.com. Eventually, we're going to be shutting down all comments on YouTube. I'm not doing that yet, but eventually that's coming. All interaction will be done at the website, and my hope is that when people start coming there, they'll start communicating with one another through the forums and through the groups and all of that. So please visit that. Also, we need your support. I exhausted everything that I had. Reserved so that we could upgrade the website and get those forums out there. I'm also going to be redoing the homepage at some point when I get time. So if you want to support the mission of truth and support me in this work I'm doing, you can do that. Go to truthfed.com. There's a support tab at the top. That's all I have for you today. Peace and grace be abundantly with all of you. Elohim Barakah. Until next time.